I didn't play the right bit before. I should have played this bit.
Across the UK, the cost of housing in growing for
Get back.
and helping solve a housing crisis that has been brewing for decades. Across the UK, the cost of housing has rocketed. Real terms, house prices are 150% in the last 30 years. In some areas, rents are up more than 10% in the last year alone.
So rents are up 10% then in 1 year. That's probably an indication that maybe the housing market has gone up 10% in 1 year. And then what? The house costs have gone up 150 times in the last 30 years. You know, this might be good for people who are 30 because over the last 30 years they've been working, they've earned, or not 30, I think 40. This might be okay for the people who are over 40. Why? Because they've been working, actually probably over 50. You know, you need to work for 30 years. If it's gone up, if the housing market has gone up 30 times more or 150 times more in the last 30 years, you know, you would have needed to make a huge amount of money for each one of those years, every single year for the last 30 years. So and because you can only work when you're 18, you know, only people who've been working for 30 years since they were 18 can get onto the housing market. But what about the people that are being born now, and how are they going to get onto the housing market? How are they going to buy a property if they have to try and make up for the last 30 years when they weren't alive? So they have to try and gain all this money, in a very short amount of time. They're coming out of university in debt. You know, they've got all these university fees that are like £30,000, and you have to take out a gigantic mortgage. So they're coming out of uni with huge amounts of debt. That they're in £100,000 debt because of being at uni and probably drinking too much. And then what? They've got to buy a house that they can't afford. Their cars are very expensive. So it's, you know, it's not just road tax, it's also the car itself and the petrol and stuff. And then people are not getting on the housing market. And you can build 1 million houses in England. Now, if the bankers have lots of money to spend, they're just going to say, you know what, we're going to take these houses and we're going to buy them, and we're going to tell, you know, I don't even believe any longer that the housing market is being corrected. You know, my sister bought a property and she said that she put in an offer, but it got rejected. But she said the only reason why she put in an offer was because that agency said that they got 2 other offers that day, and that if she didn't put this house in fact, she actually went up £10,000 more than what her offer was, and they told her that the reason why she had to put in a higher offer was because they had other offers. I don't even believe, I don't trust the estate agents. I don't think this is true. I think they're literally just saying things to try and pump up the market as much as possible and get as much dumb suckers into believing that these houses are more expensive than they are. You know, the Wikipedia site said that house the Birmingham house that I have is worth 190. You know, maybe it is. But if I actually try to put it on the market, I might find that I do get an offer, but I might find that they pull out after a month, or they can't actually afford the bill, or they can't actually take out the mortgage, you know. And I think I feel like I don't trust it. I don't feel like I don't trust the market at all. And you can build another 1 million properties, but if the bankers are the ones that have a huge amount of money because they're literally just turning people into slaves and then using the slave money to go and buy up these billion houses, buying 1 billion houses isn't going to make any difference, because the people who are setting the housing market price are going to continue keeping it as high as possible. And so yeah, this is a total scam. This is not. I don't believe it. If the government said, right, you are not, the banks are not allowed to own more than 50% of a house, you know, if they made that rule, you would find that the housing market comes crashing down very, very fast, because the bankers are not allowed to actually, if the government really wanted to help the people, they would be like, right, we need to stop this borrowing, stop this ridiculous nonsense, this borrowing. You know, if you've got 10 people wanting to buy a suite and they're all willing to pay £1, and then you've got someone that comes along and says, well, you're not going to have this suite, I've bought them all, and then but saying, oh wait, then no, there is one available that you can have, but I'm only going to give it to you for £10. You know, you might find there is people that buy it. Now, if you add lots and lots more suites to the pack, and the owner, the person with all the money says, you know what, again, I'm going to buy 90% of them, and you can only get one if you pay way more, like 150 times more than what they're actually worth. You know, this is what is going to happen. And people are going to fall for it, and I just think it's a scam. I think it's a complete scam. I think you've got a bunch of Somalians from a different country, and you're giving them a free house to try and create this delusion that these houses are worth more. It's like the drinking scam. You have a bar that's completely empty, and then you get a bunch of people who are willing to come to this bar to get free drinks. People, though, come to the bar, think that they're all paying for their drinks, so they go and pay £20 for a glass of wine or something, thinking that everyone's doing that, when in reality half the people in there are actually getting a free. Maybe this is what's happening. I don't know exactly what is happening, but if the reason why crime has gone up is because you have just got a bunch of people to sit in the houses, to pretend that the houses are all full, look into that. How many Somalians are getting free housing here, because that's your problem. It's not that there's not enough houses, it's that you're bringing in people from different countries to make it look like that their country is full. If you've got a bunch of houses and then you've got a bunch of people from different countries and then filled it with these people and then said, look, they're full. You can build another million houses, and then you can say, all right, well, there's another million people that live in Somalia that we can go and bring and fill. Oh, they're full again. Oh, how did they get full? Okay, we're the ones who filled them with foreigners, and this is the reason why I'm walking down that Birmingham High Street and finding that no one speaks English, because they just gone to third world countries, grabbed a bunch of robbers and thieves and people that are just going to turn into corrupt people. And then you say, what, we're filling up the houses, and then be like, oh look, the houses are all full. Yeah, because you fucking filled them.